Who is Manoj Gaud Manga? మీ ఇంటి పేరే. ఓకే,
హలో
జాయిన్ అవుతుంది.
చెప్పండి. ల్యాండ్ అయితే ఓకేనా, ల్యాండ్ కబ్జాలు అలాంటి ఏం జరగకుండా ల్యాండ్ బాగానే ఉందా, ఎవరైనా ల్యాండ్ ఏమైనా చేస్తున్నారా, ఒకవేళ ప్రాపర్టీ అయితే టెనెంట్స్ కరెక్ట్గా ఉన్నారా లేదా, సో ఇలాంటి వాళ్ళు ఏ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ అడిగితే ఆ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ వాళ్ళకి ఎలాంటి రిక్వైర్మెంట్ అంటే ఆ రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ కూడా మేము విత్ మినిమల్ అమౌంట్, ఇది నాట్ లైక్ థౌజండ్స్ తీసుకొని అలా కాకుండా చాలా మినిమల్ అమౌంట్ ఓన్లీ వీ జస్ట్ చార్జ్ లైక్ ట్రావెల్ చార్జెస్. After that, just some only
Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. Can you hear me? Please unmute yourself and answer the questions, or else you can text in the chat box as well. Welcome to the webinar today. Yeah. Can you hear me? Please unmute yourself and answer the questions, or else you can text in the chat box as well.
దానికి మేము డిజిటల్ మార్కెటింగ్ అనేది చేసి త్వరగా అది క్లోజ్ అవ్వడానికి మేము డూ ద హెల్త్ కరెక్టింగ్
Yes. This is Monica, HR from Technology IT Solutions. So we are a product-based and service-based company, and we are established in the year 2016. We are based out in USA and India. So we have 5 verticals basically. Monica, HR from Technology IT Solutions. So we are a product-based and service-based company, and we are established in the year 2016. We are based out in USA and India. So we have 5 verticals basically. That is product development, IT consulting services, digital marketing services, training and development, and recruitment. So in product development, basically we develop our own products internally. So one of our products is face detection employee login, which was developed by AI and data science. So we also market our own products since we have our own digital marketing team. So coming to IT consulting services, we have a strong technical team internally in our company. So we usually develop projects implementation, and also we undertake outsourcing of the projects as well. So coming to digital marketing services, we provide different types of digital marketing services, which are SEO, SMM, PPC, email marketing, content marketing, and affiliate marketing as well. So recently we have started a training and development program. We have around 40 plus trainers internally working with us, and we provide classroom, corporate, and online batches as well. So along with that, we'll be providing career guidance, certificate guidance, resume preparation, job assistance, and capstone projects as well. The further details of this projects and training and placement session will be given to you at the end of the webinar. So yeah. Now I am handovering the session to Mr. Eknath, so he'll continue from here. Yes, Mr. Eknath, I have make you as co-host. You can share your slide now and you can explain the details of AWS.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Eknath, I have make you as co-host. You can share your slide now and you can explain the details of AWS.
Are you able to see my screen?
Eknath, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see my screen, right? Yes, can you hear me? Yes, I can.
Yeah. Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Can you be a bit loud so that it's very low? Your voice is very low.
Yeah. Hi guys. Hi. Hello everyone. My name is Eknam Prasad. Totally, I do have 11 plus years of experience into IT, and for the last 7 plus years, I have been working as AWS and then DevOps engineer. And I have completed few certifications in AWS and other clouds too, such as I am certified in AWS Solution Architect Associate, SysApp Administrator Associate, and then I'm certified in Solution Architect Professional. It's in the AWS end. So when it is comes to Azure, I have completed my AZ 900 and 104 certifications, and I have completed 2 certification in Oracle Cloud, and I'm a Docker certified Terraform, and then when it is Kubernetes, like a certified Kubernetes application developer. So these are the few things which I have in my belt. Okay, so what we are going to see today, first of all, like application architecture, on-premises data center, and then why we need to use AWS, especially why AWS, and what are all the services AWS offers, and what are the advantage we are going to get from that. That are the things. Okay, guys. So first of all, we all know a simple thing. Whenever we open a browser, first thing what we used to do, we'll just do google.com. Okay, and then behind the scenes what happening, guys, we should recollect those things, like when before we are getting into. So we are the person, end user, we are trying to access google.com, and that specific google.com which will have a IP address. Okay, so the backend, it may be a 1 server, 10 server, 100 server, it doesn't matter. It may have a load balancer, such a kind of concepts also will be there, so we don't need to worry about it. That specific google.com query which will be redirected as a resolution, IP resolution with the help of DNS server, and then we will get a web server IP address. So our request from browser which will reach out to the web server, and then what will happen, we will get the landing page. That is nothing but our like a google.com landing page. And then on that specific landing page, what we are doing some search queries. So what is it all about? Like we are going to search something related to our requirement. So that specific search query which will be sent it to a application server, and then application server, okay, and application server which will take care of it, and then like it will get the data from database and a backend, and then which will serve the request to us. This is the simplest thing, guys. Okay, and then move forward. So we should know about a database first of all. Like this is the most important and then a crucial part in the application. Why? Because most of user data, session data, and then application related data, everything will be, oops, everything will be stored here. Okay, and the next thing here is like apart from the database, we can directly use the application without a database, that is a static web applications and all. But when it is comes to sessions, like user need to log in, and user should be authenticated with the password, and some of the feature like searching and other capabilities, it is like really required a database as a backend. Okay, and we have a screenshot here which will illustrate the two-tier architecture. What is two-tier architecture? Like we do have application, and then the backend we are using a some database like Oracle, MS SQL, MySQL, whatever it's so, and then we are connecting it, and then we are using it directly. So we don't have any front-end web application. So what's the problem here? If the application used by 10 people, 20 people, it doesn't matter here, because the application can sustain. But when it is comes to huge number of requests which is getting hit by that application server, what will happen? Application server will suffer due to some resource crunch such as CPU and memory utilization. So how we can handle such a situation? So what do we need to do? We need to have one more layer, that is nothing but a web server layer in front of it. So we do have a thing here. Consider flipkart.com or amazon.com in our consideration. So whenever you try to log into the flipkart.com landing page, so what will happen when you whenever you hit the flipkart.com in your browser, it will show you website. On that website you could see a lot of images and then some kind of content, everything. So those are the things which is getting served by the web servers. And then if you click something, or if you search in the search bar, or if you are navigating to mobile or something, you're doing it, those kind of requests which will be served by the application, because it is searching something from the backend database. So those are the things which will taken care by the application and database. So here what will happen, the landing page request, everything will be taken care by the web server. Only application related query which will be served by the application. So what are the three tier? First of all, presentation tier, logic tier, and a data tier, guys. So what will happen, we can take on consideration. So we do have application, on that we have one button. So if you click that button, what will happen, the button name is like a get sales total. What will happen in that web page, so it will send that request to backend application tier, and then application tier which will generate a query, and then which will run against the database. It will get the data, and then application will filter all as per the requirement, and then it will send it to a web page, and then there we could see the data report. So what are the three tiers? Presentation tier, nothing but our web server tier. Logic tier, that is our application tier. Data tier, it's our database, like a storage thing. Okay guys, so before getting into a cloud, we should definitely spend a 2 to 3 minutes time about a data center architecture. First of all, what is data center? Data center is nothing but such a kind of a small or mid or big level building which can consist of multiple racks like this. It can consist of multiple racks, switches, routers, and then inside the rack it can have a multiple rack servers, and then blade servers, and then a tower server. Those are the things, and then storage, network, rack, firewalls. In addition to that, behind the scene there are a lot of things we need to consider to build a data center, because so we need to consider the space, like a data center space, like a rent, or if it is your own space, you need to look for a building. And then physical security, like you need to have a guard for the data center. Logical security, like biometric devices and access card stuffs, and we need to have a CCTV camera into it. And you need to have a UPS generators, and then redundancy power supplies. And in addition to that, you need to also take care of air conditioning for the data center. So those are the few things we need to know additionally. So why I am talking this, for example, if someone asking you to derive some estimated cost to build uh, 20 servers, so what are the things you need to consider? So that's why I'm giving you some idea about the data center components, what all it will consist in the backend. You could only calculate for the 20 server, but in behind the scenes it also required a lot of components. So those components also added cost. In addition to that, these are all one-time investment. Buying those devices are considered as a one-time investment. So this is capital expenditure. If you want to run a data center, you need to also spend operational expenditure. That is nothing but employee salary, the security salary, or data center engineer salary, or technician salary. And in addition to that, that generator fuel, and then replacing UPS batteries, and then any component fails out of warranty devices, if you want to replace, then you need to spend on those things. So etc thing also there. Those are the considered as ongoing charges. Okay guys, so first of all, what's the difference between on-premises and cloud? So you could see here, on-premises is nothing but like a buying a car. Okay, and a cloud is like a leasing a car. For example, I want to travel from Chennai to Mumbai. So what do? if I don't have a car, I will book Ola or Uber, and then I will travel to Chennai to Mumbai. Okay, that I can do. And another option is, like, if you want to go by your own vehicle, then what you need to do? You need to buy an entire brand new car. And if it is your brand new car, then you need to take care of the insurance part. You need to pay the insurance there. And in addition to that, what you need to do, that monthly maintenance, and then car fuels, and etc thing you need to take care if it is your vehicle. But when it is comes to Ola or Uber, we are not going to pay the insurance over there, we are not going to pay for the fuel, we are not going to pay for the maintenance. So everything will be taken care by the service provider. The same scenario here. When it is comes to cloud, the underlying hardware, server, switches, racks, firewall, etc thing which will be taken care by the service provider. What we are going to do, we are going to just take it as an rent for few months, few years, like that, and then we are going to pay only what we use. Okay, that is the main difference between cloud and on premises, guys. Okay, so first of all, the main difference between cloud and on premises. If someone asks you, wait a minute, I got one question. Okay. If someone asks you, like, I want to have one server for development purpose. So the development project which we are planning to have for next 6 months. So for that we need to have a server. What you will do? So for that, first of all, if you don't have a cloud feature, so if you want to go with on-premises, then you need to reach out to your vendor like a HP or Dell or IBM or whosoever. Okay, you need to reach out to them, and then you need to ask for the quote, like what's your requirement. I need to have a 8 core CPU and 32 GB RAM server, how much it will cost. So they will give some quotation, and you need to give it to a business. So the business will get some approval for funding and approval for buying that. So once it is once you get the approval, then what you can do, you can order the device which will send it to your data center, and then you can rack it up, and then you can install operating system on top of it, and then you can hand it over to application team. So the end to end procuring, and then configuring, installation, everything which will take around more than 15 days, guys, normally, when it is comes to physical server, that is on premises. But when it is comes to cloud, it will Linux systems, it will take only 2 minutes to provision. Like within a 2 minutes you can launch one server, and then you can access it. If it is a Windows server, it will take 5 minutes. Okay, and the thing here is, like, um, even though if you want to add some more additional applications or some more things as per your company standard requirement need to be done over there, it will take max and max 30 minutes to 1 hour. Okay, but when it is comes to on premises, it will take minimum 15 days. And second thing is scalability, guys. So it is a main and important thing. So after 3 months, the same server, 8 core CPU, 32 GB RAM server, what happening, that application team is saying, like, most of the time the system is going around 80 to 90% of CPU utilization. So we were unable to test our application in a proficient way. So we want to have a additional 8 more core CPU to be added to the server. How we can do it? So for that, again, we need to reach out to our vendor. We need to look for the capability for the physical server, whether it will have the capability to add few more, that is one more 8 core CPU into the server or not. If it is there, again, it will be the same scenario, like you need to go for a business approval for funding, because you need to buy the new central processing unit, like Intel or AMD, what you are using in existing, same thing you need to procure again, and you need to install it. Okay, but when it is comes to cloud, it's again 2 minutes job. What you need to do, I have already server with 8 core CPU, 16 GB RAM. For example, if you want to scale it up, then you need to shut down the server, change the instance types to 16 core CPU, 32 GB RAM, for example, and then you need to bring the server up. So it's a 2 minutes job to scale the resource for the servers in cloud. And ongoing cost. So the cloud, as I said earlier, you don't need to pay anything as upfront. You just need to pay as you go model. Okay, the servers are not the first of all, you don't need to spend any cost as upfront. But when it is comes to on premises, you already spent a lot of money to buy the hardware, even though you need to spend every month for new upgrades or energy usage such as the electricity bill, and then internet charges, hardware replacement. So those are the things you need to pay from your packet. And reliability, all the cloud service providers are providing SLA for their services. SLA means service lease agreement. That means um, if you use our services, we can assure you like our servers which will be up and run for 99.99 percentage. So likewise they are providing some mentioned SLA, but it is not easy to get that kind of SLA in our on premises. Why? Because we need to manage it and we need to spend it. So it is not that much easy to derive the SLA in on premises. And the cost, if someone asks you like I want to have a 8 servers with the 4 core CPU, 16 GB RAM, how much it will cost? So here the two things. One is you can compare with on premises. Then what you need to do, you need to reach out to your vendor. It's vendor dependent in this case for on premises. But when it is comes to cloud, all the cloud services provider, they are having the calculator, and then they are clearly mentioned the bill. Like if you use our server per hour, you need to pay this much cost. Likewise they clearly mentioned in their documentation. So we can take that info and then we can derive the our requirement, that is cost standpoint. And performance, like most of the cloud service providers are giving the monitoring free of cost. Like but when it is comes to on premises, you need to have a third party tool to be installed in any one of the server, and then agent to be installed on all the server to take care of the monitoring part. Okay guys, so now you have the answer why we need to go for the cloud, because it's a no upfront. And if you want to reach your application to the market faster, then you should adopt the cloud. And the scalability in nature and low maintenance, those are the key points. Okay, what are the deployment models available when it is comes to a cloud? We do have a three deployment models. One is public cloud, private cloud, and a hybrid cloud. So what is public cloud, guys? So the thing here is public cloud is nothing but AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. Those are the cloud service providers. What they are doing here, actually, they do have a data center across the globe. And then what they are doing, they are giving it to a public, and then the public can sign up to their portal. And then what they are using, they need to pay at the end of the month. So that is public cloud. What is private cloud? You are working for a company. That specific company may have a 2 to 3 data centers across the globe. So those data center which will be only accessible by the company peoples and their own company usage. What they can do, they can install OpenStack, such a kind of private cloud softwares into it, and then they can get the cloud offerings over there for their own internal company. So it won't be available for other peoples. So that is private cloud. What is hybrid cloud? I have a lot of application which is running in my on-premises data center, and then I want to move to cloud. So what I will do, um, even if you host your new application in AWS, then what you need to do, you need to have a connectivity between your on-premises to AWS. For example, some of the application may run in your on-premises that can be referred by the AWS running servers. So those kind of feature you want to have, so you need to have a communication between them. So such a kind of deploying your application on both on-premises and the private public cloud, that is called as a hybrid cloud solution. And a service model, what are the service models available? Software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service, guys. So we will see in next slide. So take a 10 seconds time and see this slide. Okay, cool. So here the service model, which is categorized by three major category, that is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So we will compare that with our on premises. So when it is comes to on premises, you need to take care of your networking, storage, server, virtualization, operating system, middleware, running data, and application, everything end to end stack which need to be taken care by you. But when it is comes to cloud service provider offering three major categories, that is infrastructure, platform, and software as a service. So when you go the software as a service, example what we could use here is like email applications or online CRM tools or online billing tools. So those are the things here, that a server, operating system, and then application, everything will be taken care by the service provider. You are going to do a sign up, and then you are going to utilize, for example, Office 365, such kind of applications. So we are not managing the server, we are not managing that application, we are not developing the application, we are not deploying the application, everything is taken care by the service provider. What is platform as a service? The platform as a service is like a service provider providing capability until the runtime. For example, I want to host a Java application. So service provider, what they are offering, so they will take care of the server, operating system, and also the Java installation and the managing part. What you need to do, you need to develop your application, deploy it in the platform as a service example. Okay, the only responsibility for you here is like data and applications. And what is infrastructure as a service? So infrastructure as a service is like a service provider will take care of the virtualization, server, storage, networking things, but you need to take care of the operating system maintenance, such as patching and then configuring the operating system, installing the runtime Java, such a kind of stuff, and then installing the application, everything you need to take care. Okay, if something goes wrong with your operating system, then it's your responsibility to take care. But anyway, if you have a support, the AWS support, then you can also pull them into this, like they will also help you. Okay, but it's not their responsibility, but they will help you. Move on to next slide. So where it will fit into, so the software as a service is directly for end user, like CRM application, ERP application, and email. Those are the things are example of software as a service. We don't need to develop anything, we don't need to manage anything. So platform as a service, the application developer only required to be over there, because the apart from all the stack which will be taken care by the cloud service provider. So developer will bring up the platform as a service, and then they will deploy their application, they will test it out, they will do everything from their end. What is infrastructure as a service? So in the infrastructure as a service, we need to have administrators, and then such a kind of Linux administrator and Windows administrator who have some cloud knowledge. So those are the things required here. So what are all the public cloud solutions available out there? So we know like Amazon web services, like AWS and the Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, they are the major key players. In addition to that, we do also have a lot of competitors. First of all, what is AWS, guys? AWS is secure cloud services. They are offering compute power, database storage, content delivery, and other functionality to help the business scale and grow. Okay, guys, why you need to choose AWS? That is the first question, right? The answer is uh, AWS is a top key player in infrastructure as a service platform for this year also. Okay, for the last um, they are the leader for the last few years, like not a few years, mostly that AWS will be the first one in that target. Okay, and Microsoft Azure will be a second, and Google Cloud is a third. Why especially we need to choose AWS? Okay, so AWS established their cloud platform around 2006. they are in the market from there. And they nowadays lot of small and medium organization, they are actually migrating their resources to AWS because they don't need to maintain their data center. That is the main reason. And then actually the downtime, which is very low compared to Azure and other service providers. Okay. And AWS has more than 58 plus compliance certifications and the fastest growing cloud computing platform in the planet. Okay, in infrastructure as a service platform, so you could see like AWS owning 37% of the shares, and then Azure owning 28, and then Google Cloud is 16.5. It's an example of a data center we could see, and it has multiple buildings, and then each of them which will have a individual uh, their own power and everything, so which is highly redundant here. Okay, so we need to know about AWS global infrastructure. What is AWS global infrastructure first of all? So we will try to access it, the page. So first of all, what is AWS global infrastructure? So AWS has 24 regions already exist, and then 77 availability zone. What is region and what is availability zone? We will talk about it. So let me click on the region and availability zones. So you could see in the map, in North America, AWS has regions such as Ohio, Oregon, North California, Central, Canada Central, and then they do also two government cloud regions, that is in US East and US West. Okay, so when it is comes to South America, they do have it in a, they do have only one availability zone. Okay, sorry, only one region. When it is comes to Europe, Middle East, and Africa, they do have Europe, Frankfurt, London, Paris, Bahrain, and Ireland, Milan, Stockholm, and Cape Town. In Asia Pacific, they do have a region in Beijing, Sydney, Tokyo, Seoul, Hong Kong, Mumbai, Osaka, local, and then in China they do have another one more region. So these are the region, guys. So what is region? Region is geographical location. Okay, and see, region is a physical location around the world where the cluster of data centers available. So each group of logical data centers and availability zone. First of all, you need to know about the region is nothing but a location in any one of the area in world, such as in India we do have a Mumbai region. Okay, consider the Mumbai region, but when it is comes to availability zone, each region which will consist are uh, more than two availability zone, more than one availability zone. That means two or more availability zones will be there. What is availability zone? Availability zone is nothing but actual data centers. Okay, in Mumbai we do have a three availability zones. So as per the AWS documentation says, each availability zone which will be present in at least 100-kilometer distance. Okay, within a 100-kilometer distance each other. For example, availability zone and availability zone B, A, which will be have a minimum 100-kilometer distance between them. So likewise, they will have a data center which will be segregated with some 100 kilometers of distance. So why we need to do why we need to have such a thing, like in case if you lose one data center due to some national nature, like a disaster or something happen, you don't need to worry about it. Why? Because your application, if you have a data copy which is running in other availability zone, which will be up and run. That's why. Let's go back to the slide. Okay, So why we need to have a AWS certification with us? The main key point here is like AWS is a major key player, and then a lot of openings is out there for AWS engineers. That is the main reason. And certification path. First of all, what is AWS certification path here? The beginner level certification, which is considered as cloud practitioner, that is fundamental. It is required only cloud concept, like what is what, such kind of things. And we need to just keep it as an optional, because it is not mandatory to have a cloud practitioner certificate to do the associate. So you can directly take the associate certificates. So AWS Solution Architect Associate, Developer Associate, Systems SysOps Administrator Associate. Those are the three available associate certificates. So based on your requirement, you can pick anyone. The thing here is like for Solution Architect and then Developer and SysOps, 70% of syllabus, 70 to 75% of syllabus will be the same. Only few things will vary. And in professional, when you plan to go with a professional certification, previously it has some dependency, such as you should have a developer associate or sysops associate uh, to do the DevOps engineer. Solution architect associate should be there for to do the solution architect professional. Such a kind of dependency was there previously, but now it doesn't required. So you can directly opt for professional certificate also. And in addition to that, they do also have some additional specialty certifications, such as network specialty, data, big data specialty, and then security specialty exams. Okay, so as of now, you should focus on solution architect associate. So if you are planning to achieve any certification in AWS. So what are the services out there? So AWS has EC2 service for launching virtual machine and taking care of it, load balancing, those things. And then when it is comes to storage, for object storage, they do have a S3 simple storage service. And then they do have a EBS for block storage service, and then VPC for networking, load balancer, Route 53 for DNS management, RDS for database, and MySQL, PostgreSQL, MS SQL database, which will be fall under this RDS, and NoSQL database, that is component called DynamoDB, and Redshift, Elastic Cache are also database component. And we do also have some other EM or Elastic MapReduce for big data task, and SQS, SNS, SCS are like a simple queuing service like Apache. um, we do have a service called MQ. So those are the things which will replicate the SQS here. Notification service, email service are there, and platform as a service called Elastic Beanstalk, and a cloud formation for AWS automation, user authentication and authorization. We do have a IAM and federation services. For monitoring the cloud, we do have a CloudWatch. So those are the services which need to be covered for this course. Okay. And what do you need to have? First of all, you need to sign up AWS free tier account. AWS providing 12-month free tier account. So what you need to have, you need to have an email ID and with a valid credit card to sign it up. So if you are in India, you can also use debit card. um, the thing here is they will debit 2 rupees from your account, and then they will recredit it after a few hours. So your account activation will take time from 1 hour to 24 hours, depends on the time it will take. Okay. And they are providing 12 months of free tier usage, and it is limited, guys, so you should not play around with all the services. So whatever you are trying to achieve, so try to read the documentation for free tier usage, how much you can utilize and what you can utilize. For EC2 virtual machines, you can run one virtual machine for 750 hours per month. That is the derived thing here. Likewise, each and every service has some limitations. So to get started with the course, you need to have a AWS account and a computer with internet connection, and a browser, and a putty, like a putty or such a kind of any other SSH tool you want to get into it. Okay. Any questions, guys? Guys, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Eknath, can you please make me host so that I can further continue with my slides?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, hello everyone. So, as I told you prior that we have started a new program which is Startup Workforce. So, since you know that today you have learned few things about AWS webinar, so every Saturday we will be planning few more webinars. Every Saturday at 4 to 5:30 p.m. It's based on different technologies which are booming right now in the market. So coming to this training and placement session, which is provided by TechnoReach IT Solutions, we are partnered with few startup companies in IT sector. So along with the students for training facilities and all, we also provide career guidance. Career guidance in the sense, let me put it in a simple words, like whatever course you choose, you'll be getting complete information about that course and what are the career opportunities that are there in that course and how to grow further in that particular field. So these all things will be provided you complete knowledge about this by the experts. And as I told you, we have 18 plus experienced trainers working with us internally, so they'll be guiding you completely about the courses. So coming to the second one, we are providing trainings which are corporate, online and classroom platforms. So it's completely flexible. It's based on your requirements. You can choose any option you want to. So coming to resume building with project explanation, in the sense, we will be guiding you how to plan your resume, because whatever knowledge you have, you should put it in your resume, because the interviewer have to see your resume and then he have to go through it and then you'll get the complete information from your resume. So if it's projected in a good way, there are high chances that you will be getting to the companies. So we will be guiding you in that as well. And along with that, we will be giving you 2 capstone projects in which you'll get some hands-on in the course you choose. Without practical knowledge, if you keep on learning anything, it's no use. So we will be providing you practical knowledge along with theoretical knowledge by providing you projects. So coming to the next and final one, we provide interview support and job support, through which after completing your course, you'll be allotted interviews for few startup companies based on the company requirements. You'll be mapping to those companies, and once you prove yourself in that particular field, you can get into the companies and work for the companies. So this is one of the important thing which we have started right now in TechnoReach. So for any queries related to any process thing and all, you can contact me. The number here 7793934268 is mine. For any related process related queries, you can contact me or drop me an email at hr@technoreachit.com. And this number 6300530982 is our training coordinator number. So even you can contact her for any course related queries. These are our social media links. You can follow us and like our pages so that you can get the updates from us. So if you have any doubts, you can unmute yourself now and ask me so that I can clear your doubts. Or you can even text me in the chat box so that I'll be able to clear all your doubts. Also, I have given a feedback form in the chat box. Please fill that feedback form so that you can get your career guidance updates from the same. Yeah, I have got a question from Jubair. What would be the charges? Yes, Jubair, it will be completely depends on your course you chose, because for each course we have different kind of course fee structure, and the duration also differs from course to course. So you can contact me after this webinar so that you can talk to me about which course you want to choose, and I'll be guiding you about the fee and also the duration for the particular course. I think I have answered your question, Mr. Jubair. Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. So anybody else, if you have any doubts, please unmute yourself and ask me. I can clear your doubts. Even you can text in the chat box as well. And please note down my number so that you can contact me for any process related queries. You can find my number in the chat box as well. It's just a reminder, please fill the feedback form so that you can get the career guidance updates. Anybody else? Any doubts? Okay. Yes, so we are good. I think Mr. Eknath, do you have anything to share us?
No, Monica, that's it from my
Okay.
end.
Yeah, cool. So we can end the session here, and thank you so much for everyone for attending the session. Stay with us so that you can get the updates for the next week's seminar as well. Every Saturday we'll be having the webinar. Lokesh? Yes, Mr. Lokesh, do you have anything to ask? Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Eknath, for your time and giving us few valuable suggestions on AWS.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lokesh, do you have anything to ask?